While everyone else was home unwrapping presents and drinking eggnog, I was elbow deep in someone's chest cavity trying to keep them alive. Christmas Eve in the ER isn't magical. It's brutal. And what I saw that night changed how I think about this job forever. My name's Sarah, and I've been an ER nurse for 7 years now. 7 Christmases spent under fluorescent lights instead of twinkling tree lights. 7 years of missing dinner with my family because someone else's family needed me more. And honestly, most years I'm okay with it. I signed up for this. I knew what I was getting into. But this Christmas Eve was different. It started around 6 in the evening. The holiday shift always begins quiet. Almost too quiet. People try to avoid the hospital on Christmas Eve if they can help it. They'll tough out a fever, ignore chest pain, convince themselves that weird rash can wait until tomorrow. For a few hours, it feels like maybe we'll have an easy night. Maybe we'll actually get to eat the sad cafeteria turkey they put out for us. Maybe I'll even call my mom back. That illusion lasted exactly 43 minutes into my shift. The first call came through dispatch. Multi-vehicle accident on the interstate. Black ice. 4 cars involved. At least 6 patients incoming. My stomach dropped. It always does when I hear those words. Multi-vehicle means chaos. It means we don't know what we're walking into. It means families destroyed in seconds. I remember looking around the ER at my coworkers. We all had that same expression. The one that says we're about to go to war. Dr. Patel started barking orders. Trauma bays 1 and 2 cleared. Respiratory therapy on standby. Someone page surgery. The machine kicked into gear. This is what we train for. This is what we do. The first ambulance arrived 8 minutes later. A woman in her 30s. Unconscious. Intubated in the field. The paramedics were doing compressions. I ran alongside the gurney as they wheeled her in, my hands already reaching for IV lines, my brain already running through protocols. Her name was Jennifer. I know because her husband arrived 10 minutes later, absolutely hysterical, screaming her name in the waiting room. We worked on Jennifer for 47 minutes. 47 minutes of chest compressions, of shocking her heart, of pushing medication after medication, of Dr. Patel calling out orders while I watched the monitor for any sign of life. Her heart wouldn't hold a rhythm. Every time we got it back, it would slip away again. I could feel my own heart pounding in sync with the compressions I was doing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Come on, Jennifer. Come on. When I do compressions, I always count in my head. It keeps the rhythm right. But somewhere around minute 30, I stopped counting numbers and started counting other things. I counted the wedding ring on her finger. I counted the small tattoo on her wrist that looked like it said Mom. I counted the Christmas cookies someone had left on the nurse's station that nobody had time to eat. I counted all the ways this wasn't fair. We lost her at 7:42 p.m. Dr. Patel called it. Time of death, 1942 hours. December 24th. Christmas Eve. Someone turned off the monitors. The room went quiet except for the sound of all of us breathing hard, exhausted, defeated. I looked down at my hands. They were shaking. They always shake after we lose someone. But I've gotten good at hiding it. The worst part wasn't losing Jennifer, though. I mean, it was awful. Don't get me wrong. But the worst part was walking out to that waiting room and watching Dr. Patel tell her husband, watching him crumble, watching him stop being a person for a second and just become this raw animal grief. He kept saying, "But it's Christmas Eve," over and over. Like that meant something. Like the universe was supposed to take holidays off from tragedy. I wanted to tell him that the universe doesn't care what day it is. That I've seen people pass on birthdays, anniversaries, New Year's Eve. That tragedy doesn't check the calendar, but instead, I just stood there with my shaking hands in my pockets while he sobbed. And I did what we're trained to do. I was present. I was professional. I was compassionate. And then I walked back through those double doors and got ready for the next patient, because there's always a next patient. The second ambulance brought in a teenage kid, 17 years old. His name was Marcus. He'd been in the back seat of one of the cars, heading home from his girlfriend's house. No major injuries, miraculously. Broken arm, some lacerations, possible concussion. He kept asking about his mom, who'd been driving. She was in the ambulance behind him. I lied and told him she was fine. I didn't know if she was fine. I just knew he needed to stay calm so we could treat him. What got me about Marcus was how polite he was. Even in pain, even terrified, he kept saying thank you and I'm sorry for the trouble. This kid with a bone sticking out of his arm was apologizing to me. 17 years old and already trained to be grateful just for being helped. It made me irrationally angry, not at him, at everything else. His mom came in next. She was stable, thankfully. Broken ribs, some internal bruising, but she'd be okay. When I told Marcus, I watched his whole body relax. That's when he started crying. Not from pain, from relief. I held his good hand while he sobbed, this tall teenage boy suddenly looking about 6 years old. And I thought about how it's always the relief that breaks people. You can hold it together through the terror, through the pain, but the second you feel safe enough to fall apart, you do. The rest of the night blurred together. A grandmother who'd fallen putting presents under the tree. Broken hip. A father of 3 with chest pain that turned out to be anxiety. A little girl who'd swallowed a jingle bell. I'm not kidding. A literal jingle bell. We had to take her to surgery to remove it. She was fine, thankfully, but I'll never look at Christmas decorations the same way. Around 11 p.m., things finally slowed down. The waiting room emptied out. The trauma bays were cleaned and reset. I sat down at the nurse's station for the first time in 5 hours, and my legs screamed at me. Someone had finally opened the Christmas cookies. They were stale. I ate 3 anyway. That's when Daniel walked in. No ambulance, no dramatic entrance. Just a guy in his mid-20s, walking slowly, clutching his side. He checked himself in at the desk. When I called him back for triage, he could barely stand. I got him into a room and started my assessment. Abdominal pain, 8 out of 10. Rigid abdomen. Fever. All the signs of something serious. I asked him how long he'd been in pain. He said 3 days. 3 days. I asked him why he waited so long. He looked at me like I'd asked something stupid and said, I didn't want to ruin anyone's Christmas. This guy, possibly dying from a burst appendix, had spent 3 days in agony because he didn't want to inconvenience anyone during the holidays. I wanted to shake him. I wanted to yell. Instead, I put in an IV line and paged surgery and told him very calmly that his life was more important than anyone's Christmas dinner. He laughed. Actually laughed. Then he winced because laughing hurt. My mom's going to be so mad she made all that food for nothing, he said. I told him his mom would rather have him alive than have perfectly timed Yorkshire puddings. Dr. Patel confirmed my suspicion. Appendicitis, and it was angry. Daniel went to surgery at 11:45 p.m. I walked him down to the OR, and just before they wheeled him through the doors, he grabbed my hand. I'm scared, he said. Just like that. Simple and honest. I squeezed back. I told him the surgeon was the best. I told him he'd be okay. I told him I'd check on him when he got out. He nodded and let go, and they took him away. Standing there in the surgical wing, I felt something break inside me. Not dramatically, not like in movies. Just a quiet crack, like ice under pressure. I'd held it together through Jennifer, through Marcus and his mom, through the grandmother and the little girl and the anxiety attack father. But Daniel's simple, I'm scared, broke through every professional wall I'd built up over 7 years. I found an empty supply closet and I sat down on the floor and I cried. Not the pretty crying you see on TV, the ugly kind. The kind where you can't breathe right and your face gets all splotchy. I cried for Jennifer, who'd never get to open another Christmas present. I cried for her husband's broken, but it's Christmas Eve. I cried for Marcus, who'd apologized for bleeding on my scrubs. I cried for Daniel, who'd almost let himself perish rather than inconvenience anyone. And yeah, I cried for myself too, for missing another Christmas, for being so tired I couldn't see straight, for having to be strong all the time when I didn't feel strong at all. I gave myself 5 minutes. That's my rule. 5 minutes to fall apart, and then you get up and you keep going. At minute 4, someone knocked on the door. It was Rachel, one of the other nurses. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded, wiping my face with my scrub sleeve. She handed me a tissue. "Jennifer?" she asked. I nodded again. She sat down next to me on the floor. We didn't say anything. We just sat there for 60 seconds, 2 nurses on a supply closet floor at midnight on Christmas Eve, and somehow that made it better. When we walked back out, I could hear singing. Confused, I followed the sound to the waiting room. A family was there, waiting for their dad who was getting stitches. They'd brought a guitar. They were singing carols, badly, off-key and missing half the words. But they were singing right there in the ER waiting room, like this was perfectly normal, like the world hadn't just been ending in the rooms behind those double doors. Some of the other waiting families joined in. Then a patient in a wheelchair rolled out and started harmonizing. It was absurd. It was inappropriate. It was the most beautiful thing I'd seen all night. I stood there watching, and I felt that crack inside me start to seal back up. Not heal, not fully, but seal enough to keep going. At 12:15 a.m., it was officially Christmas Day. Someone had hung a sad little wreath on the ambulance bay doors. The maintenance guy, probably. He does that every year. Dr. Patel ordered pizza for everyone because the cafeteria had closed and we'd all missed dinner. We ate lukewarm pepperoni in the break room, still in our bloody scrubs, while someone's phone played Christmas music. Daniel came out of surgery at 1:30 a.m. Successful appendectomy. He'd be fine. When I went to check on him in recovery, he was groggy but awake. "Merry Christmas," he mumbled. I laughed. Actually laughed. "Merry Christmas, Daniel. Your mom's gonna kill you, by the way." He smiled. "Yeah, I know." Marcus and his mom were being admitted for observation. I stopped by their room before my shift ended. They were holding hands, both of them bandaged and bruised, watching some old Christmas movie on the room TV. Marcus's girlfriend had shown up with his little sister. They'd brought presents. They were opening them right there in the hospital room at 2 a.m. Marcus's sister had gotten him a video game. He couldn't even hold the controller with his broken arm, but he was grinning anyway. His mom was crying, but the happy kind this time. I thought about Jennifer, about how her family wouldn't be opening presents this year, how her husband would spend Christmas Day planning a funeral instead of making breakfast, how brutally unfair it all was. And then I thought about Marcus's mom, who got to watch her son open a present she'd almost never seen him open. About Daniel, who'd almost waited too long but didn't. About all the people who came through those doors tonight and walked back out again. This job breaks you in ways that are hard to explain. You see humanity at its absolute worst and absolute best, sometimes in the same 5-minute span. You hold hands with strangers while they pass. You watch families fall apart and pull back together. You become part of people's worst days, their scariest moments, their deepest fears. And you do it over and over, shift after shift, holiday after holiday, until you forget what normal people do with their Christmas Eves. But here's what I realized tonight. Sitting in that supply closet, listening to off-key carols in the waiting room, watching Marcus open his video game at 2 a.m. This isn't just what I do. It's who I am. The person who runs toward the accident instead of away from it. The person who holds the scared hand. The person who keeps going when everything in me wants to stop. I didn't choose this job because it was easy or because the holidays off sounded great. I chose it because somewhere deep down, I need to be here. I need to be the person in the room when everything goes wrong. Does that make me a hero? God, no. Heroes don't cry in supply closets. Heroes don't eat stale Christmas cookies at midnight and call it dinner. Heroes don't lie to teenage boys about their mothers being fine when they have no idea if that's true. I'm just a person doing a job that happens to require me to hold pieces of other people's shattered lives and try to glue them back together. My shift ended at 3 a.m. I walked out to my car in the dark, still wearing scrubs because I was too tired to change. The parking lot was empty, except for the other overnight workers. No snow, despite what all the Christmas movies promise. Just cold December air and the distant sound of someone's car alarm. I sat in my driver's seat for a minute before starting the engine. My hands had stopped shaking. They always do, eventually. I drove home listening to the radio. They were playing that Mariah Carey song. You know the one. Everyone knows the one. I sang along, badly, alone in my car at 3 a.m. on Christmas Day. When I got home, my roommate had left the tree lights on for me. Small apartment tree, nothing fancy, but it was lit up in the dark living room like a tiny beacon. There was a wrapped present underneath with my name on it. I didn't open it. I just looked at it for a while. Then I took the longest shower of my life, washed the hospital smell out of my hair, and climbed into bed as the sun was starting to think about coming up. I set my alarm for noon because I had to be back for the evening shift. 4 hours of sleep, holiday pay, and then some. Worth it? I don't know. Ask me again in 20 years. But as I was falling asleep, I thought about Jennifer's wedding ring, Marcus's thank you, Daniel's I'm scared, the off-key carols in the waiting room, the way Rachel sat with me on the supply closet floor without needing an explanation, the way we all keep showing up, shift after shift, because someone has to. Because these moments, these terrible, beautiful, heartbreaking moments, they need witnesses. They need people who care enough to stay. While everyone else was celebrating Christmas, we were fighting in the ER. And we lost some fights. And we won others. And tomorrow, or today, or whenever the next shift starts, we'll do it all over again. Because that's what we do. We show up. We fight. We hold the hands that need holding. We count compressions and pray for rhythms and eat stale cookies at midnight. We miss our own Christmases so other people might get to have theirs. Is it worth it? Yeah. Even on the days it doesn't feel like it. Even on the nights that break you. Especially on those nights. Because somewhere right now, someone's getting news that changes their life. Someone's holding their child's hand in a hospital room. Someone's scared and alone and about to meet a nurse who'll sit with them anyway. And that matters. It has to matter. Otherwise, what are we all doing here? The wreath on the ambulance bay doors will come down next week. The Christmas decorations in the pediatric ward will get packed away. Life will go back to normal hospital chaos, without the added pressure of holiday expectations. But I'll remember this Christmas Eve. I'll remember Jennifer and Marcus and Daniel. I'll remember the singing in the waiting room, and the crack inside me that sealed back up just enough. I'll remember why I do this. Because while everyone was celebrating Christmas, someone needed us. And we were there. Broken, exhausted, covered in other people's blood, eating lukewarm pizza at midnight, but we were there. And tomorrow, we'll be there again. Thank you for listening to my story, for understanding that not everyone gets to spend holidays the way the movies promise, for seeing the people who work while others celebrate, who miss their own families to be there for strangers. We don't do it for the recognition, but it helps to be seen sometimes. It helps to know that our Christmases away from home matter to someone besides just us and the people we treat. So thank you. Really, if this story resonated with you, if you've ever wondered what happens in hospitals when everyone else is home and safe, hit that subscribe button. Share this with someone who works in healthcare, who knows what it's like to miss holidays for strangers. And if you've got your own story about working through Christmas, or being a patient on a holiday, drop it in the comments. I read every single one. We're all in this together, even when it doesn't feel like it. Even on the hardest nights. Especially on the hardest nights.